Hi, I'm Daniel Wong, and today we're going to be playing a deck that's very near and dear to my heart, Blue-Black Taking Turns. Blue-Black is the first deck that I found real tournament success with back at Grand Prix Las Vegas 2017, and this particular deck is taken 74 out of the 75 that I played at Grand Prix Hartford 2018. So the meta has shifted since over a year ago, but we'll see how it goes. At its core, this is very much a Taking Turns deck. We have 8 Howling Mine effects, split between 2 literal Howling Mine, 4 Dictate of Kruphix, and 2 Jace the Mind Sculptor. We have 9 extra turn effects, split between 4 Time Warp, 2 Part the Waterveil, which Awakening Part the Waterveil is how we intend to win the game most of the time, and 3 Temporal Mastery. 7 pseudo extra turn effects in 4 Gigadrowse and 3 Exhaustion, and then a bunch of cantrips and Serum Visions and some interaction. 2 Fatal Push, a Collective Brutality, a Snapback, 2 Snapcaster Mage, 2 Cryptic Command, and of course, good old Commandeer. Since we don't have any cards with 2 black mana symbols in their cost, we only have 11 black sources, split between 4 fetch lands, 3 Drowned Catacombs, 1 Temple of Deceit, 2 Sunken Hollow, which can be fetched by the fetch lands and often come in untapped, and a Watery Grave, 9 basics, Mikokoro as an extra Howling Mine, and 2 Gemstone Caverns. So note that this is a legendary land, which means if you ever draw 2 of them, it's pretty bad. But if you happen to have 2 in your opening hand when you can luck it, you can just play 1 Gemstone Caverns, exiling the other, and then you don't have to worry about it. Over in the sideboard, we have 3 extra creatures in 2 Thing in the Ice and a Tasigur. Tasigur can end the game very quickly. He will win the game in 5 attacks if the opponent doesn't damage themselves, but often the opponents will take damage from their mana base, and Tasigur is a great way to take advantage of that. A bunch of interaction in Collective Brutality, Thoughtseize, Surgical Extraction, Hurkyl's Recall, and Commandeer. And a little bit more interaction in Chalice of the Void and Engineered Explosives. Alright, I'll see you for round 1. Okay, here we are for round 1. We've lost the die roll. This hand looks pretty good though. We have only 2 lands, but a Serum Vision to set up the 3rd land, and then 2 Dictates. A Snapcaster can maybe block, maybe flashback Serum Visions, Gigadrowse for interaction. This is definitely a keeper. It looks like the opponent might be on Ad Nauseam based on just Seachrome Coast. Although, they could also be, I don't know, maybe Spirits or something. I'm just going to fetch a basic here. We don't have any black cards in hand, and it's unlikely that we'll really need Watery Grave or anything. So there is a black source. We do kind of want both of these lands so that we can turn 2 Dictate into turn 3 Dictate into turn 4 also land Dictate, and then hopefully start drawing relevant cards, Time Warps and all that. So I am going to top both of these. I think the opponent might have F6'd their turn. That's unfortunate. Alright, this is too many lands. We don't need all of those. So the plan is next turn play a Dictate, and then the following turn also probably a Dictate. Although if the opponent is missing land drops and just going to discard, there is kind of a good argument for not even casting a Dictate yet. Since we can't exactly go off, we don't have any... Oh. This is the SRAM plus Pure Steel Paladin deck. Okay. I've barely ever played against this deck. I don't exactly know how this goes. I don't think I need to Gigadrowse here. It's already a little too late for that. Alright. I might start Gigadrowsing next turn, depending on exactly what happens. So Collective Brutality isn't exactly what we want. Since the opponent doesn't usually have a lot of instants and sorceries, it's mostly just artifacts. I think they do run like Retract or something. They theoretically could kill us next turn. I don't know exactly how scared we need to be of that. I'm going to play a little bit scared. I'm going to plan to Gigadrowse at upkeep and then try to flash in another Dictate and go off from there. Although, if the opponent... if the opponent cracks this fetch land, I might just Gigadrowse 2 lands, which means I might just want to Collective Brutality now, just to look at the hand, leave up 2 blue sources for Gigadrowse, and then next turn go to Exhaustion. I think the fact that we don't have a land in our hand makes me more inclined to cast this Dictate so that we're much more likely to hit our 5th land drop. So I'm just going to Gigadrowse probably 1 land and hope that we don't die. Right, just the 1. So for those of you who don't know how this deck works, SRAM or Pure Steel Paladin allows you to draw cards whenever you either cast or ETB an equipment, and then the deck has a bunch of 0-cost equipments in it. So the entire point, is to just play a SRAM or a Pure Steel Paladin and then go off from there. It looks like the opponent might have been scared of counter magic or something for the past couple turns. It's probably also why our opponent kept a 1-lander. I'm very confused why the opponent is discarding rather than just casting those. Alright, so we missed our land drop. That kind of sucks. I guess I'm just going to Gigadrowse these 2 lands. Alternatively, I could Gigadrowse 1 land, and if the opponent casts a Pure Steel Paladin or a SRAM, can Fatal Push it. But I'm going to Gigadrowse both of these because I believe that deck does play Mox Opal, so it's theoretically possible that the opponent can even... Well, actually, we'd have to discard if I pass the turn and then Gigadrowse, so maybe I should just Exhaustion. Yeah, I'm just going to Exhaustion and leave up Fatal Push. So that we don't have to discard. Alright, so the opponent has 10 cards in hand. They have to have something to do, right? What the? I've never seen Godless Shrine in this deck before. Okay, so this is good. This is the ETB one, which means in response to the opponent's first equipment, which is that one, we will kill that. Alright, so hopefully we can draw something meaningful. That counts. Alright, I think we just Gigadrowse 3 lands and hope the opponent doesn't have Mox Opal plus land. There's not really too much we can do about that except for leave up Snapcaster Push. Maybe that is actually better. We can Gigadrowse 2 lands and then the opponent needs to draw a land, play it, play their thing, and then we have Snapcaster Fatal Push. Yeah, that sounds alright. I feel like we have a lot of Gigadrowses. I feel like discarding 1 is okay. Although maybe we're never going to use this Collective Brutality. Yeah, I think the chances of us actually being able to use Collective Brutality are very low. Sorry, buddy. We want to keep the land in hand so that next turn we can part the Waterveil with off of this polluted. Oh shoot! I just clicked through the upkeep. Should have been paying more attention. My bad. All right. Well, hopefully we can make up for my huge misplay. Sorry about that, everyone. The unfortunate part is it is reasonably likely that the opponent does have another Pure Steel Paladin or what have you in hand. Oh my goodness. Okay. Alright, well, we can be getting badly punished for my mistake, so sorry about that. I'm just going to go ahead and yield till the next end step and then try to tap any blue sources they have so that if we happen to not die this turn, then we... Is there any way to give that thing haste? Maybe I should turn off these auto yields. Okay, miraculously we have somehow not died, so that's great. We have so many Gigadrowses in our hand, I'm just going to go ahead and tap these things now so that if we draw like Exhaustion or something, then we won't have to worry about these things being untapped because it will be tapped. That's targeting Sacred Foundry, and then we want to tap Pure Steel Paladin. So interestingly, we only need to take 4 turns in a row to kill the opponent off of the bird and the Snapcaster, so that's kind of cool. All right, so this is attack number 1 of 4. There's that Exhaustion I was talking about. I think we just... Oh, okay. Maybe we just win. I think the play here was to Exhaustion the opponent, play the Misty, have 4 mana up for Cryptic, and then we basically can't die. Then we just need to draw another Time Walk effect. We would get our 4 in this turn, opponent doesn't untap, we get another 4 in, the opponent goes to 4, and we can hopefully win. But anyway, can't say I've played against this deck very much, but things I think are good. Chalice on 0. This Chalice on 0 is good against Pure Steel, but not good against SRAM, because SRAM is a cast trigger rather than an enters the battlefield trigger. Hurkyl's Recall I don't actually think is good, because all the opponent's artifacts cost 0, so that won't do anything. I don't think we need Tasigur. I don't think Collective Brutality is very good. Thoughtseize is probably good, because it hits the creatures that are important to the deck. Let's see, Engineered Explosives is okay if you put it on 2. I don't know that we need both of them, though. Alright, and then Commandeer doesn't seem great, because the thing that you really care about is the creatures. So I think cards that we're taking out. Commandeer, Collective Brutality. Snapback seems great. I don't think Exhaustion really does that much because they operate on very little mana, and they also have Mox Opal. And I'm going to take out 1 Gigadrowse, just because, again, they can operate on such little mana. Alright, let's try it like that. Here we are for game 2. This hand's tough. So we don't have interaction, except for Gigadrowse, which doesn't quite cut it here, and we're a little bit short on lands. Because we need both lands and we would rather have some kind of interaction, I think this is a mulligan. Oh, that's rough. That's like the same hand, but worse. And that's the same hand, but even worse. All right. I'm actually not going to luck this Gemstone Cavern just because we need all of these resources. The opponent's mulliganed to 3, so we're not actually out of it. I guess we want land. So again, as embarrassing as it is to have mulliganed to 4 there, the opponent has 2 cards in hand because the opponent has mulliganed to 3. So I think we're gonna be okay. All right, so unfortunately this is the cast trigger one. So we will respond to this one. by killing SRAM, and the opponent is going to be left with 1 card in hand and a Cathar's Shield on the battlefield. All right, as long as we're hitting land drops, I'm feeling pretty okay about that. Right? And the opponent is now out of resources. I mean, we kind of are too, but we have good draws. There's like Jace and stuff. That's not really a good draw. Howling Mine is decent. Dictate of Kruphix is decent. Even just hitting more lands is fine. Exhaustion doesn't do anything. Cryptic Command is kind of insurance. Snapcaster, oh no. Well, I'm not going to pretend that we have anything. Just going to F6 here. All right, I think we really need to draw something, so I'm going to go ahead and just time warp ourselves here. That's not it. So we could Exhaustion, but it doesn't actually do anything because the opponent just casts 0 mana stuff anyway, so I'm just not going to. Yeah, it's a little bit rough that on our opponent's mull to 3, they managed to find, wow, 4. Oh my god, they managed to find 4 of these creatures in the top 15 cards, 14 cards, whatever. Alright, yeah, we don't have anything. Well, once the opponent starts going off, they're really going to go off, so... Engineered Explosives. Oh, neat. Well, we can't cast that this turn, so... Alright, opponent drew a land. We have a chance. Alright, I'm just going to go ahead and put the Chalice on 0, and that way the opponent is not going to draw any cards off of Pure Steel Paladin. At some point, we can tap the opponent's team with Cryptic and then Exhaustion to buy ourselves some time, but really don't need to right now. The opponent could theoretically draw counter magic or whatever, but yeah, who cares? They could also just draw lands and stuff. All right, let's see what we've got. Howling Mine seems good. Thoughtseize does not seem good. So we can't cast Howling Mine this turn, but I think the plan here is going to be tap the opponent's team and draw a card with Cryptic, and then next turn Exhaustion and Howling Mine, and then try to go off from there. It'll be tough, but we can do it. So I wonder if the black source is for like Thoughtseize type effects. I feel like it probably is. Can't say that I know for sure. I wonder what the opponent's up to. Good old pump fake. All right. Oh, shoot. All right, so sorry about that. I F6'd through my own turn. I think I'm just gonna counter this and draw a card. Guess we could counter that and bounce SRAM. That's probably better. No, we're dead in 2 turns either way. Counter and draw. Alright, I'm really sorry about the poor play here. Alright, our opponent's just casting zeros into this chalice because they still get to draw the card with SRAM, so all of their zeros are cantrips. Does make it kind of likely that they have a counterspell by now, but we'll see. Let's see here. So we can beat a counterspell by just casting Time Warp here. If this resolves, we're golden. If it doesn't resolve, we still have 3 mana to tap the opponent's stuff. Actually, I suppose there was a good argument for just tapping the opponent's stuff there anyway. Let's see here. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we can part the Waterveil next turn with Awaken, but I think it might be better to just not Awaken this and then cast a Howling Mine afterwards. So I'm just going to go ahead and top both of these with the intention of casting it all next turn. This all right. So I'm going to start with part the Waterveil to play around Spell Pierce or something. All right, have to be really careful about fetch lands now. I was gonna say, if we die to Gut Shot, I'm gonna be so sad. So we can't use this Thoughtseize, and I don't think we want to Dictate. Yeah, that Thoughtseize will kill us. Ooh, that's lucky. That's lucky. All right, let's queue ourselves up some turns. I'm gonna wait to Gigadrowse so that until we can Gigadrowse everything. We've got a bunch of turns queued up, so it's no biggie. Ooh. Okay, EE on 2 sounds appealing. So let's see how much mana we have. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Land for turn is 11. So 4 to put EE on 2 and then blow it up to kill those. Oh no, EE on 2 kills Howling Mine. Ha ha ha. That's dumb. Let's see. So we have an extra turn queued up anyway. I could just Gigadrowse the opponent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then Snapcaster Exhaustion and start attacking with Snapcaster Mage. But I think it's actually better to just Gigadrowse now and then next turn Snapcaster Time Warp. So I'm just going to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see, I think I'm going to go ahead and double tap things also. If I tap 10, then or if I replicate 9 times, we get 6, and then the 3 that matter are the blue sources, so 1, 2, 3. And I think we have enough mana for that. Cool. Again, the only reason I'm doing this now is because we have that extra turn queued up from that. This one, same targets. From that really lucky Temporal Mastery turn. Okay, now I think we can get some Snapcaster beats going, even if the opponent has like a Surgical Extraction or something here. We have Snap Exhaustion afterwards, so no biggie. And again, we could Snap Exhaustion, but I'd rather Snap Time Warp, which I think we have in here. Yeah, there it is. All right. Okay, or maybe I'd rather just kill the opponent. Let's wake up Gemstone Caverns and then be careful about not playing another Gemstone Caverns. All right. Sorry for the sloppy moto interactions, but I'll see you for round 2. All right, here we are for round 2. We've won the die roll. This hand has a lot of lands in it. I would feel pretty comfortable with this if we knew we were playing against control or something. I'm gonna go ahead and greedy keep this. It's not a good hand though. So I'm gonna lead on basic island. I'm gonna save the fetch for if we draw Jace and want to shuffle something away. I think that is gonna be better than thinning the deck. We already only have like, 18 lands in the deck anyway. Out of 53 cards, we just really want to draw some spells. Some spells would be real nice. All right, the opponent has finally kept their 6. Like I said, we're leading on island because I'm saving the fetch land for if we draw Jace or something. And we really want to find either a Howling Mine, a Dictate, or a Jace here. I wish I knew if Collective Brutality was going to be good. I'm going to assume it is. We don't really want that Time Warp, though. We would much rather draw towards Dictate or Howling Mine. All right, that Mishra's Bauble targeted himself. So this is probably the decide whether or not you're cracking your fetch land before or after you Street Wraith. So the opponent is probably on Grixis Shadow. Yeah, this is almost certainly Grixis Shadow. Sleight of hand is interesting. I am going to do look at hand only. Actually, is that even good? 4, 5, 6, 7. So the opponent could Gurmag Angler with a fetch land regardless of whether or not they're discarding. So I feel like the only way Collective Brutalitying the opponent's hand here is bad is if they have exactly non-fetch lands and Gurmag Angler, which would enable them to cast the Gurmag Angler earlier than they otherwise would. But this really informs our decision, I think, so. Or our... I guess we don't really have decisions, do we? I still think this is a good idea, is what I'm trying to say. The opponent has Thoughtseize and stuff, and okay. Well, the opponent gets to Gurmag Angler anyway. That's interesting. I don't quite think we beat this hand. Turn 2 Gurmag is kind of rough, and then the opponent gets some big shadows after that. Yeah, 2 Death Shadows. This turn, lose 3 on Polluted Delta, lose 2 to Street Wraith. Actually, the opponent can just play 2 pretty big shadows this turn. Yeah, down to 10. That's 2 3/3 shadows, and then Watery Grave makes them 5/5s. Yeah, we're in trouble. Okay, well the opponent almost certainly has Stubborn Denial, but I'm gonna cast this anyway because, you know, Stubborn Denial is gonna hit something, and I'd rather have it just hit our Explorer than hit like something that kills a Death Shadow or whatever. Oh, okay. That's cool too. I wonder why the opponent didn't play stuff. So if the opponent doesn't have Stubborn Denial, Jace into Bounce Gurmag Angler is actually a way to win this game. I feel like most players would have cast the Stubborn Denial there, even though that Temporal Mastery did almost nothing. Just because it taps us out for a turn and all that. Maybe our opponent's just better than I'm giving them credit for. Oh, I think the opponent also cycled the Street Wraith, is that right? Yeah. So we actually only know 2 cards. I mean, it has to be a Stubborn Denial though, right? But I don't think there's a way to play around it. Because the only reason the opponent would leave Watery Grave untapped and delve everything and not play one of the shadows is because of Stubborn Denial, right? Then again, given just the contents of our hand, I don't think there's no way for us to play around it. So, time to play into it. Yeah. Although, I suppose the way we play around it is by trying to draw Gigadrowse and then Gigadrowsing the Watery Grave. The opponent, yeah, gets to deploy their whole hand regardless. And this is lethal, so we have to do something. I thought we had more time than that. Oh. Okay. So the plan now is upkeep, tap the team, draw a card. And the reason we're doing upkeep is because we don't beat Stubborn Denial. So we want our opponent to not have it. Which means we're doing this before they draw a card. So that's why we're doing that at upkeep instead of beginning of combat. So we theoretically still can win this game. Snapcaster would be really, really helpful. Yeah, I'm just gonna crack this. The life doesn't really matter in the face of all these shadows, and thinning the deck is more than nothing. Alright. Also more than nothing. So that does give us this free exhaustion, which is cool. But now we need to draw something. Does that count? I mean, not exactly. We can't cast part, we can't really do much. So if the opponent's not cracking their fetch, there's no way for us to use Gigadrowse to take them off Stubborn Denial anyway. So do you think we want to cast that? All right, so the question is, how do we cast this Dictate and also not die? And I think the answer is next turn, we need this land. Next turn, we're going to Cryptic, tap the opponent's team, draw a card at upkeep again. If they drew Stubborn Denial, we just lose. And then the following turn, we're going to Gigadrowse, tapping the 3 shadows, and get hit by Gurmag Angler, but then we'll have Dictate. And then after that, we'll try to go off. It's not a good plan, but it's the plan that we have, so we'll go with it. We really need the opponent to have like all fatal pushes and lightning bolts in hand, something like that. Or lands. All lands in hand would be cool too. What is happening? Oh, Gurmag Angler. Okay. Let's see. So we can still go with the plan of tapping the 3 shadows and then casting Dictate. Then we lose to Temur Battle Rage. We don't lose to a single lightning bolt, which is cool. We'd be taking 10, going to 4. I mean, I think that has to be the plan. And I'm gonna tap stuff at upkeep because, again, we would lose to a Stubborn Denial if we try to tap these 3 and then they stub one of them. That's 13, whatever, 18 damage. The Dictate, on the other hand, we want the opponent to draw their card and have it not be Stubborn Denial. Theoretically, if the Dictate gets Stubborn Denialed, we could somehow put a win together, but if this Gigadrowse gets Stubborn Denialed, we're just gonna die. Yeah, so again, we're dead to Temur Battle Rage, we're dead to 2 bolts, we're dead to Bolt Snap Bolt. So, alright, well, we're not dead to that. Okay, well, this Fatal Push really isn't doing much. So, options. Basically, it's between a Cold Part the Waterveil and a Time Warp. So, the reason it would be better to Time Warp is if we can just naturally hit 2 more lands, then we get to Awaken Part the Waterveil. However, I think the opponent might have a Fatal Push or something along those lines in hand. So I don't think just going for the raw Part the Waterveil is what we want to do here. Instead, I think what we want to do is try to draw like Howling Mine or like a land Dictate, which means if we have Time Warp and we draw one of those things, either a Howling Mine or a land Dictate, then we would get to keep going off from there. I'm just going to go ahead and cast Part the Waterveil then. Okay. And I'm leaving this Fatal Push in hand because it's really not doing anything, and if we draw like Jace or something, then we would get to do stuff. Alright, so now I guess the thing that this Fatal Push is doing is letting us tap 1 fewer thing with Gigadrowse if we kill a shadow here. So I guess that's worth it. Alright, well, we know that the opponent doesn't have Stubborn Denial in hand, or they would have Stubborn Denialed some of our other stuff. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, so we can target all of the non-fetch land permanents, and I guess that's the best thing we've got. Oh, shoot. I just realized cracking that fetch puts us dead to Bolt. Oh well. Let's see. 5, 6, 7 replicates. Yeah, it might have been better to just not crack that fetch so that Bolt doesn't kill us, but too late now. I suppose another thing that would have been reasonable is forcing the opponent to crack the Bloodstained Mire so that we can use the other Gigadrowse to protect ourselves from Stubborn Denial. But again, too late now. Poor thoughts. Alright, well, Snapcaster Mage looking pretty good right here. That's not quite the card with Snap in it that I was looking for. Okay, this matchup, Chalice on 1 is pretty good. Thoughtseize and Collective Brutality are okay, but not amazing. I think Tasigur and Thing in the Ice are decent. And I think Commandeer is pretty good if you take an opponent's Thoughtseize or a really important Stubborn Denial. I'm going to put in 1 Engineered Explosives. It's really only good against Death Shadow, so I don't want too many. So they are a Kolaghan's Command deck, which means they do get 2 Kolaghan's Command or Howling Mines, but we kind of just want Howling Mine effects to undo the effects of their massive amounts of discard. I'm going to take out a Collective Brutality. Snapback is okay against Gurmag Angler, but it's not great. It's also good against Temur Battle Rage. This is tough. This is tough. Alright, because I'm expecting to put Chalice on 1, I'm going to board out at least 2 Serum Visions. I think taking out 1 land is fine. I think because we have alternate win cons, I'm comfortable trimming part the Waterveil. Jace is really nice because bouncing Gurmag Angler is pretty reasonable, and also, you know, he's a Howling Mine and all that. 3 more cuts, huh? Yeah, Snapback's not great. Fatal Push really only hits Death Shadow. Trim that one. Maybe we trim 1 Howling Mine? Not really sure. Alright, let's try it like that. Yes, we will go first. Alright, cool. We get our Serum Visions on turn 1, and then if the opponent doesn't take this Chalice, we get to put it on 1. Our opponent has once again mulled to 6, so that's kind of cool for us. Dictate seems pretty decent. I don't think we want this Exhaustion right now. Though I guess it does kind of bridge the gap between turn 4 and Time Warp turn, but I already bottomed it. I should have thought a little bit harder about that. It's definitely a strong argument for putting it on top, but because there's a chance that Alright, this one's looking at Dictate. Yeah, I think the smarter thing to do was to put Exhaustion on top and then Dictate under that. And that way, even if the opponent has 2 discard spells, 1 for this Chalice and then 1 for the Dictate, they won't be able to take it. So I think that was a mistake on my part. Opponent just has Stubborn Denial up on turn 1. Maybe they're going for a Thought Scour. I'm just going to jam this because we're planning on using our mana for the next couple turns anyway. We've got Dictate next turn, and then yeah, that's fine. Would have liked that to resolve, but at the same time, we can possibly resolve our other spells now. On the other hand, if we had waited for our opponent to just play a land, it's possible that they start using their discard spells. Because we could have tried to do something like Gigadrowse at the opponent's end step and then cast the Chalice on our turn, but then the opponent just would have done something like this, where they just Thoughtseize us, take our good stuff. Yeah, so I guess this was the reason to have put Exhaustion on top and then Dictate. This looks like either a Gurmag Angler or a Shadow. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, the opponent has had a pretty good combination of exactly the correct interaction and what looks like a fast clock. Again, we could have played around that if I had been a little bit smarter about that Exhaustion, but too late now. What can you do? Man, that hits hard. Interesting. Okay. All right, well, I think we're losing this one. So I definitely made some misplays there. Could have done better, but at the same time, our opponent had a pretty stacked hand for us. It's a very interesting card. All right. Just gonna go ahead and do this at the opponent's upkeep. No real reason, but whatever. No stub, no stub, no stub. Ah. All right. Good games. All right, here we are for round 3. This hand's a toughie. We got 2 lands and a Dictate. It really depends on how good this Commandeer is going to be. Opponent already mulliganed. This is a little bit of a sketchy keep again, but I'm going to go ahead and keep it. If we can draw another land for this Dictate, it'll be pretty solid. I think I'm just going to lead on the Sunken Hollow probably. And let's see what the opponent does first. I think the most likely cards that I would want to pitch to this Commandeer are Temporal Mastery and Snapcaster Mage. Snapcaster doesn't really have any targets for a long time. Oh yeah. We can't let the opponent have that. So Snapcaster Mage just really doesn't have any targets for a long time, and we really want the Dictate and the Cryptic. So for those of you who don't know how this works, the Amulet deck is based on the original Ravnica bounce lands. So those enter the battlefield tapped and then tap for 2 mana, and when they enter the battlefield, you have to return a land you control to their owner's hands. So that combines with this Amulet of Vigor to basically make a bunch of mana. If you have 1 amulet, then each time you play a bounce land, you make 2 mana. Then they play cards like Azusa that allow them to play more lands. Let's see. Oh, this is a cool interaction. Check this out. We just got an untapped Sunken Hollow on turn 1. This may have never happened before in the history of Modern. But anyway, yeah, they make a bunch of mana, they cast Primeval Titan, they do some weird nonsense, and they kill you with Primeval Titan. So, yeah, I have no problems with just taking our opponent's Amulet from them because they really, really need this card for the deck to work. Interesting. Plant token. Notably doesn't have any power, so we're not under any actual pressure at the moment. I'm going to cast this before playing a land because we're basically not going to Fatal Push anything. Do we even want this Howling Mine? I feel like we kind of just want another land for this Cryptic. I feel like we just want this Cryptic kit to be online as fast as possible. I don't think we want this Howling Mine. Weird as that is. So I think we actually just don't want the opponent drawing more cards because then they could draw into another amulet. What did they do? Oh, Cavern. That's right. Because they could draw into, you know, an amulet. They could draw into the bounce land they needed. They can draw into the Azusa that they needed. We would much rather just have them drawing fewer cards. And I think we would just want to hit land drops. Ooh, I've never seen that one out of this deck before. Interesting. So the opponent could play a Primeval Titan next turn. If we had another land in play, I would say let's Gigadrowse them so that they can't get the... Oh, it's giant. Okay, we can't Cryptic Command the Primeval Titan anyway. So yeah, if they have the Titan, it's resolving. I would rather just get the Dictate down to try to hit lands. If we Gigadrowse them this turn, we theoretically take them off Titan for a turn, but you know, that's not really do anything if we're not hitting our land drops. So I would rather just allow them to cast Titan this turn, and then hopefully hit a land drop, and then next turn have Gigadrowse the Titan. Oh. Okay. Tolaria West is getting Summoner's Pact. Okay, so they have a Titan next turn. Now I feel a lot more comfortable about just casting the Dictate now and then tapping some stuff next turn. Land. Yes. All right. Let's see here. So unfortunately, this thing basically makes 2 mana. We know about the Cavern. Yeah, I think we just Gigadrowse this turn. So our other option is to Dictate next turn and then try to go off. That might actually be better. The opponent gets a Primeval Titan into play, but then because they don't have an amulet, they can't do anything with it this turn. And then if we try to go off and we just draw like an Exhaustion or something, we kill them with the Summoner's Pact. That's sounding kind of appealing. I also don't really want to use this Gigadrowse, even though theoretically if the opponent didn't have a land, or if they only had tap lands, this Gigadrowse will take them off Titan for a turn. So like if we Gigadrowse Cavern of Souls, then they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They would need to play a land in order to play a Titan. But I'm just gonna let them have it, I think. Yeah, basically we just need to draw an Exhaustion at some point in the next few cards. Really hope they didn't natural draw the Titan. Okay, there's the Summoner's Pact. So note that Gigadrowse does not interact well with the payment on Summoner's Pact, because we can, at their upkeep, try to tap their lands, but then in response they just float the mana and then pay for the pact. Yep. Yeah, so the opponent has Tolaria West in hand, but does not have the mana to transmute it into a Pact of Negation, so that's cool. What the? Oh, god dang it. Sorry about that. Pressed the wrong key. Been doing that way too many times. Really sorry for the sloppy play. Alright, so 2 gemstones is not bueno. There's the exhaustion. Alright, well, this just doesn't matter. Alright, so again, sorry for the sloppy play, but I'm glad it didn't matter. Okay, opponent, you want to pay for that? You want to pay for that? Which lands are you going to use? Wait, sorry, which ones? Which lands are you going to use? You can figure it out. Okay, against Amulet. We definitely want Thoughtseize. I think we want Commandeer, again, just to take Amulet. I think we can put Chalice on either 0 or 1, and it's pretty okay. I think we want Engineered Explosives to get rid of Amulet. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Alright, cards that aren't good. Collective Brutality, we really need to hit Amulet, and Collective Brutality doesn't do that. Fatal Push doesn't really hit much. I think they have Sakura Tribe Scout and Azusa, but, you know, whatever. 3 more cuts. I don't really like Gigadrowse against Titan, because you can slow them down a little bit, but at the same time, if they just resolve an Amulet, then Gigadrowse really doesn't do anything. And because we intend to put Chalice on 1, I'm going to cut 1 Serum Visions. Alright, let's try it like that. Alright, opponent is going first, and we have the legendary turn 1 Chalice. What do I get rid of? Probably Gigadrowse here? I don't think this Gigadrowse does anything. Alright, no Amulet, no Amulet, no Amulet. Dang it! Ugh. Alright, we can either put Chalice on 1 or 0 now. I think we put Chalice on 1, and then we're going to try to put Engineered Explosives X2, but paying with 1 color. I'll explain that interaction when we get to it, but basically, we're going to put this Chalice X1, everything's all fine and dandy. The opponent is now off Sakura Tribe Scout, they are off Future Amulet of Vigors, they are off Ancient Stirrings. Alright, well this is a bummer. They could have like Azusa or something here. But anyway, the way Chalice interacts with Engineered Explosives. So, oh, wait, what's this doing? Alright, well, opponent can figure out what that's doing. So the way Chalice interacts with Engineered Explosives. You determine a value of X for Engineered Explosives. So for us, we're going to want X2 Cavern. Okay, that's cool. So for us, we're going to want X2. You put it onto the stack, and its converted mana cost is 2, because the total amount of mana you paid is 2. Yeah, Chalice says, what's the CMC? Is it 1? No, then I'm not going to counter it. So unfortunately, we didn't draw our land, so we'll just be really careful about making blue mana here and blue mana here. Then we want X2. So we've cast this with 1 color, meaning it has 1 counter on it, but we did X2, meaning it dodges our Chalice. So, cool. So now we'd really like to draw lands so we can get our Howling Mine and Dictate online. Oh no. That's like kind of a disaster. That's also like kind of a disaster. So the opponent's gonna have a Titan next turn, and blowing up this Engineered Explosives doesn't really stop that. Well, we know they have Cavern. They just straight up have 5 mana right now, so we know that nothing we do can put them off of the 6th mana, so... Yeah, I'm just gonna cast this Howling Mine and see if we can go off. You know, maybe they need to use a Pact and then we draw exactly land Exhaustion or something. We'll see how it goes. I guess the reason to blow up the Engineered Explosives is so that the lands that the Primetime gets don't get to give it haste and all that jazz. Yeah, that would have been smart. Oh well. I don't think we were winning this game missing 2 land drops anyway, and facing down a Primetime and an Azusa. But it would have been smart to blow up the Engineered Explosives. Alright, so I'm just going to F6 and you all can watch how this deck works. So the 2 lands the opponent's going to get are the Boros bounce land and the thing that gives haste. The opponent's going to stack the triggers so that they untap both of those lands, give the Primetime haste, then the Primetime gets to attack, and then all sorts of ridiculous things happen. Basically, Amulet is really, really, really important, and I definitely should have blown it up. I think the opponent usually gets something like Talaria West and Bounce Land, and then bounces Talaria West or something. But yeah, anyway, doesn't really matter. All right, yeah, there's just no way we're winning this game. Let's just go to game 3. I don't think we need both gemstones. I'm gonna throw in a thing in the ice just so that we can win faster. Yes, we will play first. Alright, this hand has a turn 2 Chalice. I'm gonna keep it and hope the opponent doesn't have turn 1 Amulet again. Of course. Alright, do we go for Howling Mine or Dictate? Sorry, Howling Mine or Chalice? I think Chalice. Oops. Try to draw a land and then cast Dictate next turn. That would be nice. Alright, I guess I forgot to put lands in this deck. So we are going to be facing down a Titan at some point in the near future, I assume, but we'll see exactly when that is. Alright, let's draw some lands. There's a land. Neat. Suppose I should have thought harder about exhaustioning that turn. I was thinking more about saving the exhaustion for if our opponent has a pact, but I think the opponent does actually have Primetime here. Assuming they have another bounce land. Oh no, actually any land is Primetime. Ah, shoot. I need to learn how to do math better against this deck. Okay, transmuting for... Get this Exile Zone shrunk down. This is ridiculous. Interesting. For Walking Ballista. Bizarre. Ramunap Excavator. Also bizarre. Alright, well now I think we just try to keep our opponent from casting anything important this turn. Note that our Serum Visions, of course, Serum Visions are blocked by the Chalice, so we're not going to cast those. Yeah, I think this turn we Exhaustion, and then next turn we go for the Time Warps and stuff. All right, the opponent has a lot of cards in hand, but they do only get one land this turn, so... I mean, I guess actually they can kind of go off if they have a bounce land. They get 3 mana from the bounce land plus Coalition Relic. Okay, that's not scary. All right, I guess let's see if we can go off this turn. So the opponent is off of, ooh, that's cool. The opponent is off of Pact of Negation mana because it costs 2 blues. Would have been nice to have that that dictate last turn, but what can you do? So we can also put our opponent really off of Pact of Negation by just casting this for 0, which I think I'm going to do, because otherwise we would have to discard this turn. And, you know, we can't exactly get rid of this Walking Ballista with this Chalice, so whatever. All right, now we would like to draw some lands, please. All right, that counts. So this turn I'm going to, yeah, let's do the Time Warp again. Now I'm going to do that same trick from last game where I'm going to put Engineered Explosives on 1 counter through this Chalice by paying 2 mana of the same color. Again, I just want to kill that Amulet, so sure, black mana this time. Double black, Engineered Explosives, X2 with 1 color. And we can't pop it this turn, but whatever, we have more time. Okay, I think the opponent might have forgotten that we have another turn. I'm just going to go ahead and snap Time Warp. We're not really scared of Surgical Extraction because of our Chalice, so it'd just be nice to get the beats going. All right, and then these Serum Visions are not resolvable, so I'm just going to get rid of them. Even though this is like kind of too many dictates, but you know, whatever. Oh, one more, my bad. Yeah, like I said, this is kind of too many dictates, so we can just get rid of one. It's fine. And is this 9, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? Yes, it is. Unfortunately, we're not attacking this turn, but that's okay. Cool. See you for round 4. Okay, here we are for round 4. We've lost the die roll, but this hand looks pretty lucky. So we get a turn, or turn 0 gemstone, lucky gemstone. We can fatal push whatever the opponent plays first off the gemstone, and then we have a turn 2 dictate. That's kind of cool. So we do have to get rid of either the time warp, or if we're feeling really lucky, a land, but I'm not. Not after last time. Hardened Scales. Okay. I think this is going to be a tough matchup. Interesting. I think this is going to be a tough matchup because we don't have quite enough interaction, but our hand is quite fast. So this turn, if they play something that we can fatal push, that would be great. Next turn, we dictate. The following turn, we exhaustion. Then we're looking pretty okay. So something like an Arcbound Ravager here would be fine. We just kill it. Yeah, Walking Ballista. I also think we have to kill that one. It just gets so big so fast. It looks like the opponent F6'd. So we should have 2 less life than we actually do, but whatever. So this turn we're going to dictate. Next turn we're going to exhaustion and temple, then try to draw the 5th land for this time warp and see where we go from there. Okay. Opponent is stirring into a land. Not sure if that's the scariest thing, meaning they have all gas in hand that they need this land for, or if it just doesn't mean anything. Note also that the Mox Opal is offline because the opponent only has 2 artifacts right now. All right, the opponent has just had enough. Oh, of the match. All right. Well, I'll see you for round 5 then. Okay, here we are for round 5. We've lost the die roll. Unfortunately, we don't have quite enough lands for this hand to be good because this hand has some great spells in it, but we gotta ship it. Okay. All right, I guess we're keeping this one. That is a land. So if we get Thoughtseized here, I do want to Commandeer it because both I want to protect the Dictate and I'd like to see what's going on in the opponent's hand. So yeah, I am just going to take that. We're left with very few resources, but we basically just need to draw a land. Ooh, no, not same targets. Okay. We basically just need to draw a land after that Flooded Strand that we have on top. Oh no, double what kind of redundant hand is this? All right. There's yeah, well, we're not going to take the Thoughtseizes because we have this Dictate that we won't be able to put on the battlefield, and then we know that we're drawing a land, so these Thoughtseizes are going to be dead anyway. So we have to take a Thought Scour. That was not what I was expecting. All right. Goodbye, Dictate. I hardly knew ye. Oh, interesting. The opponent missed a land drop. All right. Well, their Thoughtseizes are now online. I think the opponent is probably going to Thought Scour again, though, so I don't want a Gigadrowse here. And I also don't want to crack this Flooded Strand because I want to keep our land density as high as possible so we can... All right, come on. No land, no land, no land, no land, no land, no land, no land. Nice. All right, we have a chance. Oh, that's gone. That's gone. We don't have a chance. I'm just kidding. Let's see. So I do want to Gigadrowse now, just so we can't get Thoughtseized. I'm basically forcing their hand, or not really forcing their hand, but like it's kind of like I'm making them take a Gigadrowse. I just really, really want to resolve this Dictate. And what that means is I'm banking on the opponent not drawing a land here and then us drawing a land on our next turn. Obviously, if the opponent draws a land here, then this is a really stupid play because now we're down to Gigadrowse and a Dictate. But given that the opponent otherwise has a guaranteed Thoughtseize on us, I think this is okay. Oh, maybe they just have another Thought Scour or something. No, okay, just floating mana. All right, no land, no land, no land, no land. Nice. Land, 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 land. Nice. So I am going to pay life here. And I think I'm probably just flashing in the Dictate in response to Thoughtseize, because I assume that's what's happening here. Yep. So goodbye part the Waterveil, but hopefully the opponent just won't have follow-ups. So one thing that does kind of suck is we are helping the opponent draw more, you know, lands and stuff by playing this Dictate, but we really need something because we have literally no cards. All right, that's kind of nice. So we're probably just counter drawing the last Thoughtseize here. Maybe not. We'll see. We'll see. Never really looked at this art on Blood Crypt before. So yeah, I'm gonna counter draw. They could have Stubborn Denial, but I think this is fine. I guess counter draw is actually kind of bad against another Thoughtseize or another Inquisition potentially, but I think we just need more cards. Okay. All right. Well, I think I would rather cast this Dictate than this Exhaustion. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to cast it during the opponent's draw step in response to our Dictate trigger. That way, the opponent basically only has Street Wraith as a way to lose life and get Stubborn Denial into whatchamacallit range, Ferocious range. And also this way they're not drawing a card from this Dictate. Also not casting the Exhaustion there means we potentially get to nab their shadow for a turn. So we're potentially taking less damage there, but we'll see. Yeah, the opponent I think is at the part of the game where they're just kind of going the hell off. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. This is a big shadow. Wow. We don't quite die to Temur Battle Rage, but we do die to like Battle Rage plus a thing. Yeah, we're gonna need some good draws is the bottom line. All right, our fetch lands are offline. That is not a good draw. That is not a good draw. That is not a good draw. All right, unfortunate. Still had all these. So Death Shadow again. Let's see. This is fine. Chalice is fine. 1 EE, 1 Commandeer. Yeah, that's not great. Kind of want to leave Snapback in because it is good against Battle Rage, but at the same time, the opponent is going to be tearing our hand apart in such a way that it's very unlikely we'll be able to use Snapback in a meaningful way. Yeah, let's get rid of it. Get rid of that. Let's cut 1 push. Let's cut 2 Serum Visions. Yeah, try it like that. Okay. I'll trim 1 part the Waterveil over 1 Serum Visions. We do kind of want fuel for Tasigur. It is a little bit contentious where we want fuel for Tasigur, but we also don't want that many 1-drops for Chalice. A little bit awkward, but we'll live. Okay, we have double Chalice. That sounds cool. Note that Commandeer is not online right now. We do not have 2 blue cards in our hand. Part of that being we boarded a bunch of you know, not blue cards. let's see what's happening. Poor thoughts are getting seized. So if one of these chalices was a blue card, would I have commandeered? It would protect our Tasigur, but at the same time, by doing that, our Tasigur has very little fuel, right? We would have no cards in the graveyard, nothing would be headed towards the graveyard. So I think it's also fine to just let it resolve, but in any case, let's get this chalice down. So one thing to be aware of is Kolaghan's Command. So there is reason to put an additional chalice on one. Interesting. But I think instead of putting a chalice on one right now, what I'm going to do is cast a Dictate at the opponent's end step. Neat. I get Snapcaster beads. So I would rather cast the Dictate this turn and then try to cast a chalice on one next turn. That way, even if the opponent has Kolaghan's Command, it's just not that big of a deal. They can blow up one chalice and they still just can't really resolve their spells. Yeah, I don't mind taking some damage from Snapcaster here. It's just not a real threat. So we could Commandeer this, but this is only going to take Commandeer. It's the only instant or sorcery in our hand. And I don't really care about the life. So yeah, go for it. All right, so down comes the Dictate. The opponent lets us fetch. All right, so I guess the other thing to be aware of is engineered explosives on 0. So we don't just want to slam this chalice because we really get got if the opponent does put an EE on 0. But also we want to be aware of Kolaghan's Command. So we do want to be aware that there's a chance we would want to put the chalice on 1 again. Since the opponent can't, like, you know, end step Kolaghan's Command, untap, play 2 or 3 shadows or whatever, I feel pretty fine about letting it go for now. Oh yeah, I forgot about Mishra's Bauble. So I suppose, let's see, we could put Chalice on 0 to stop that from happening, but then, you know, we just get got by Kolaghan's Command anyway, which was one of the main concerns. Always in the wrong order. So now, because the opponent has access to Kolaghan's Command into, you know, Flurry of 1-drops, I think I am going to put Chalice on 1. First, let's see what we're about to draw. Or maybe not about to draw. This Exhaustion feels like it doesn't really do anything. So yeah, it would be really unfortunate if the opponent just plays an Engineered Explosives on 0. But there's not too much we can do about that. So I feel like this is a Colligan's Command, blow up a Chalice, and make us discard a card. So, oh, okay, or it's not. For me, it was pretty close between the Temporal Mastery and the Snapcaster Mage, which one we should discard. I still don't really want to trade with the Snapcaster. We are still at 13. I'd rather try to draw something relevant for a Snapcaster to flashback, like maybe, Time Warp or something. Ah, dang it. Come on, Temporal Mastery. I wanted you to be a miracle. All right, now that there's 2 Snapcaster Mages, I am a lot more concerned about life total. I think the opponent's just going to pitch a bunch of 1s here, probably. Also kind of regretting that Exhaustion to the bottom, because Exhaustioning this turn would have done a lot. Of course, I didn't know the opponent was about to tap out, so... All right. So if I play this Howling Mine, we do get to tap 3 things if we want with this Gigadrowse, because the original copy will get countered by Chalice, but then we still get the 3 replicate copies. So one option is to go tap Snapcaster, Snapcaster, Howling Mine. That sounds kind of cool. We could also try to go after the opponent's lands so that they don't have Colligan's Command up or whatever, but I think just buying ourselves more time and giving the opponent 1 fewer card is better. So this Gigadrowse is going to go at, doesn't matter. We're going to get 3 real copies. By real, I mean copies that are going to resolve. Yeah, so that one hits the bin, and then we get boom, boom, boom. All right, the opponent also knows that we have Snapcaster in hand, so we can just safely F6 this turn. So I guess one of the cool things here is that we don't have to really be afraid of surgical extraction because of these Chali on 1. Note that Fatal Push is going to be countered, so we don't want to cast that one. I also don't think our opponent's life total is very important. Ooh, that's neat. I also don't think the opponent's life total is very important because they are not going to cast a shadow based on the looks of them discarding that one. So yeah, let's cast this. Let's do the Time Warp again. Okay, neat. For sideboard, feel like we want the gemstone over maybe a land. Want to change anything else? We could add Thing in the Ice, but then if we start blocking Snapcasters, we get got by the opponent's Collective Brutality. Yeah, I think this is fine. Okay. This hand is not amazing, but it's okay. I think I'm going to keep it, and I think I am going to luck this Gemstone Cavern, getting rid of a Temporal Mastery. The reason being we want to just cast stuff faster. So if we draw like a Dictate of Kruphix, we'd like to cast that on turn 2. If we draw like a Howling Mine, we'd like to cast that on turn 1. And Temporal Mastery, really just not a card that's doing anything for most of the game. All right, something good. Something good. Scry something good. There's that Dictate that I said we want to cast on turn 2. All right, they looked at their own library. Wow, the opponent has dealt a lot of damage to himself. All right, this doesn't look like a Gurmag Angler, so that's cool. Okay, note that Drowned Catacomb comes into play tapped here, so we do need to play the Scalding Tarn if we want to cast that Dictate, which I do want to cast that Dictate. It also kind of looks like the opponent has Stubborn Denial, so I also maybe won't cast the Dictate. I mean, it really depends on what the opponent does. If they force our hand here with this discard spell like they're about to, okay. That doesn't take Dictate, so I'm not going to cast Dictate here. Again, I just don't want to cast this into a Stubborn Denial. If the opponent passes the turn, I'm just not going to cast it. And then I might cast it at their draw step. They could like double stub it, but I think that's okay. Single stub won't actually do anything. Oh, neat. That's also an option. It's an option that doesn't get Stubborn Denialed. Maybe we switch gears here. Let's see, did the opponent fetch that? Well, I'm mostly concerned that if the opponent decides to just like cast a Gurmag Angler or something, then Tasigur is just outclassed. Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Dictate plan. I think it's too easy for Tasigur to get outclassed right now. And if we don't have something like a Dictate fueling our draws, getting us closer to this Temporal Mastery that we're kind of far away from, then it's just not that good. I guess I could have just cast this at end step also, but you know, whatever. I'm going to crack this Polluted Delta before casting Serum Visions so that we don't mess up the scry. There is some argument to keeping the fetch land around so that we have Revolt on Fatal Push, but I don't think that's what's going on here. Oh man, that's rough. So one thing to note about this Gemstone Caverns is that we already have a Gemstone Caverns in play. So if we play this one, that one dies. We do want land, but we don't want this land. And if we think the opponent has Stubborn Denial, then we don't actually want this Time Warp right now either. It's kind of rough. That feels wrong. Yeah, I think I'm gonna bottom both. It feels weird, but we want to draw into like a Gigadrowse or something so that we can beat the opponent's Stubborn Denial that they've been representing very hard. Yeah, that feels weird. All right, I'm going to get rid of Serum Visions, I think. think we would, yeah, I think leaving Cryptic is fine. Oh. Oh. Disdainful Stroke. I wasn't expecting that one. Okay, if that's what the opponent had. No, they were representing Stubborn Denial earlier. Probably have both. Okay, and note that Stubborn Denial is in Ferocious range now, so I am just going to end step this Fatal Push. This is probably getting stubbed, and then we're going to untap and Time Warp, which I assume is also getting stubbed. The opponent probably has a very counter magic heavy hand. Ooh, maybe that's just what we want to do instead. Try to look for a Gigadrowse or something. Because I do feel like this Time Warp is going to eat another stub. The opponent was just doing nothing for so long that it's pretty likely that they have more counter magic. Yeah, let's look for something. Gigadrowse would be great. That's not Gigadrowse. Alright, I think I'm going to go bottom top because we do want the land. I'm going to dictate, guess, at the opponent's draw step. No, I think we're just going to end step dictate. I don't think it makes a difference. Or just respond to the opponent's like Thoughtseize or whatever. So that Death Shadow is getting big fast, but we do have good draws. The best draw is Gigadrowse here. We want to be able to tap down their blue sources, and okay, they milled themselves. That's interesting. So we had scryed a card to the top, and I feel like the opponent's graveyard is stacked enough that they didn't really need to do that, but whatever. Anyway, like I said, we have good draws here. Gigadrowse would be the best so that we can set up a Gigadrowse on their turn into, this feels like another Stubborn Denial. The opponent tapped really weirdly for that also. They didn't leave themselves the opportunity to cast a, ooh. So I think the opponent has Stubborn Denial, which means Time Warp is just going to leave ourselves open. So I'm going to cast a Chalice here. Note also that if we had one more land here, we would be able to cast this Chalice and also warp. That would have been great. Oh, Ceremonious Rejection. All right, maybe I'm just an idiot then. Kind of want to not cast this Howling Mine because I don't want our opponent to draw into Stubborn Denial then. Although we can draw into Gigadrowse, and I suppose we're more likely to draw into Gigadrowse than our opponent drawing Stubborn Denial. But then if our opponent draws Battle Rage, we just die. If the opponent manages to deal 6 to themselves somehow, then we also just die. Yeah, playing this Howling Mine is kind of risky. I'm not going to do it. There's a chance that we get to Time Warp and then also Howling Mine if we just get one more land. But again, we really want Gigadrowse so that we can take the opponent off of Stubborn Denial, which actually we might not be able to do anymore because this is a fetch land. I don't know. Oh, okay. Or we just die. That's cool too. Good games. So we finished at 3-2, which is not bad, but not great. Chalice of the Void was really good when we resolved it before the opponent cast any meaningful spells. So like against that Grixis Death Shadow opponent, it was great. Then when it got countered, it was not great. Against Amulet, when we put it on one in a meaningful way, it was cool. When the opponent had their Amulet down before we got Chalice out, it kind of sucked. So if you're going to put Chalice in your deck, I highly recommend you fully understand what decks Chalice is good against and what numbers you should be putting it on against those decks. There are a lot of non-intuitive things like, when do I put my Chalice on 0? Or like, how do I play Engineered Explosives around Chalice? Like, if you put a Chalice on 0, does it protect your Chalice on 1 from your opponent's Engineered Explosives? There's just a lot of weird interactions with Chalice, and you should really make sure you know them if you're going to be putting this card in your deck. Tasigur, unfortunately, we didn't get to see him do much because he just got countered the one time we cast him. I do think he would have been great if he had resolved. I just didn't really have a good read on the opponent having Disdainful Stroke, but whatever. Collective Brutality, we didn't get to see it in action too much this time, unfortunately. I think Thoughtseize might actually be better in the meta right now. The one change that I had made from this deck last year was taking out a Hurkyl's Recall, because I felt like there were fewer Affinity and KCI decks now. And I added a Collective Brutality, but I actually think Thoughtseize might be more useful. You get to take Primeval Titan, you get to take like Amulet of Vigor, stuff that Collective Brutality can't take. But overall this deck felt really good. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next video.